Mr. Cumming. Julie?
Great, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank everyone for their presentations. I wish we had more time on this. I think it's important for us to hear all the opinions. It's important. My first question is to Ms. Yelnizyan, if she's available, and Mr. Kronik after that. Hi, Armin. It's nice to see you. It's been a while. The question I actually have is where my colleague, Mr. Cumming, just left off. I support us looking very seriously at some sort of a universal basic income. And so what I'd love for you to maybe talk to is, do you see UBA as a way to better address income inequality moving forward? And if so, because you've been around, you've been on a lot of shows, I've been hearing that you are a supporter of it. What would you see might be the next steps from where we are right now to where we need to go, understanding that there's provincial jurisdiction involved and that we'd probably be looking to replace a number of federal and provincial programs with some sort of an annual basic income? So if you could address that, that would be great.
Thank you for the opportunity. I actually am not in favor of a basic income. I don't think CERB should have been the template. A lot of people think CERB was the portal through which we got a $2,000 check or some amount of money cut to everybody. Saw it as a portal to basic income. I don't think you could have a more misguided approach to what CERB was about. CERB was about disincentivizing people from going to work so they could stay at home and contain the contagion. That was why people were given money. In a recovery, you don't want a system where you're throwing money at people universally. You're trying to get them back to work. And particularly in the era of population aging, this might take us 6 months, it might take us 18 months, it might take us 24 months to get through as a health crisis. And we are in a health crisis still. Once we get to the other side of that, we don't know how much of the ecosystem of business will have been destroyed, would have been blitzkrieged by COVID because it could not withstand the lower volume of business. So we don't know how much of the economy will be left standing. The last thing in the world we want to do is encourage people to stay at home. We need people to contribute because even a basic income requires people working and paying taxes so they can redistribute income. This is why I believe that investments and significant investments, not in childcare as warehousing children so mommy can go back to work, but childcare that permits the maximizing of the potential of preschoolers so that everybody enters school learning ready and supports learning throughout the course of school-age children's lives so that everybody can graduate and have the best opportunities to try and develop their skills and get a job. This is much more important to me than a basic income. So I'm sorry that you have misunderstood all of those shows that I've been on talking about basic income, because I really am not a supporter, and I've been super clear about that all the way along.
Okay, well, no, that's clear. And I want everyone to be clear. I wasn't proposing that we actually extend CERB necessarily. I think there's a number of people that believe because the world of work has changed, because of the number of people in the gig economy, because we have short-term contracts, because we don't, a lot of the Canadian population don't have access to benefits, because we're a transitioning economy, many people felt that some sort of an annual basic income might be one of the solutions for us to address income inequality moving forward. It was one of the ideas proposed. So I don't want anybody to believe that I was proposing that we should be extending CERB. My next question is actually to, so thanks for that, Armin. My next question is to Mr. Kronik. We'll try to get you into this discussion here. As you know, we've, in our last platform, we really talked a lot about creating a sustainable economy. And we've made a huge promise around a net zero by 2050. And I wonder if you might have any thoughts about how can we use this crisis to somehow pivot or move us into a more sustainable economy where we could meet not only our net zero by 2050 target, but our Paris Accord targets. If you have any thoughts on that.
Well, I'll admit that's not the direction I thought you were going to go with the question. Well, so I mean, look, this is the government's made very clear that that net zero, is going to define their thinking, and it's something that they want to achieve. And so yes, I understand the arguments about not wanting government to put conditions on how they extend government support through this crisis and then through the recovery, and that's fair. I mean, my belief is, the private sector and our financial institutions are typically better at allocating capital than governments are. But if that is going to be one of the overarching principles that this government is going to be using, we have to think about how to unlock savings in this in the economy. I mean, it's been mentioned that there's a lot of people who have stayed home that have saved a lot during this, and that's true, they have. But how do we unleash and unlock that savings during the recovery is going to be a critical part to the success of economic growth. And so, if we do need to think about that within the context, of net zero, then those are the rules we're playing by. And so, I think we need to think about some of those things. I mean, I'm not an expert in sustainable development, but I mean, there are a lot of ways. We've talked a lot. I have about some of the ways in which capital has, probably been stuck with some of our big institutional investors instead of invested in the Canadian economy. And just as an example, life insurers, when you have an unrated potential investment, life insurers have to put a flat capital charge on their balance sheets. And so what that does is it disincentivizes low risk investments in the economy. And so a lot of that capital, and that doesn't apply to banks. Banks do have the ability to use their own models on unrated investments, and life insurers don't. So you have all this capital that's sitting there and not being spent. And so I think we need to think creatively about how to unleash that capital for that savings for investment. And if it's within that net zero framework, then we need to think about it in that way.